lifeless body retrieved from the car which dashed into the Buri River in the early hours of yesterday Sunday. And reports say, or reliable sources say that the incident has been blamed on poor maneuver. And also in this newscast, inhabitants of Kenzo in the eastern region of the country remain panic-stricken after the area was invaded or attacked by Seleka rebels from the Central African Republic. Plus, we visit the Mbongo locality in the Bakassi Peninsula where government primary as well as secondary schools are in dire need of teachers. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on TV. Good evening to you viewers. Thanks indeed for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Marine forces and law enforcement officers have succeeded to retrieve the corpse of the taxi driver which dashed into the Buri rivers in the early hours of Sunday yesterday, and the driver reportedly lost control of his vehicle before the unfortunate resulting to the unfortunate incident, as senior reporter Christopher tells us in the following report.
The long-talked-about yellow-colored Toyota vehicle has finally been retrieved from the Buri River, where it fell Sunday, March 31st, with at least one person on board. From about 7 a.m. Sunday, the fall of this taxi was the talk of the day, even stealing the show to the Christian feast called Easter Sunday. And onlookers came in their numbers to witness military maneuver all day, getting home disappointed at the information that it was impossible after 6:30 p.m. to continue with the search. Then came Monday, April 1. Search resumed at exactly 9 a.m. with the arrival of deep-sea divers from Esongo near Limbe and led by Lieutenant Colonel Adenkwenti Hilary. It took the mobilization of forces of law and order to keep the population at a considerable distance. And after so many attempts by the different marine divers, the vehicle was finally located and retrieved from the waters to the greatest applauses from the anxious population as the machine towing the taxi lifted it up in form of a trophy. Then the men of Colonel Adenkwenti Hilary thus received all sorts of salutes, the most important being that of Buri Senior Divisional Officer Nasiri Paul Beya, who came to realize that the show was far from being an April Fool.
That is what it took law enforcement officers in the country to retrieve the mortal remains of the driver who dashed into the Buri River less than or in the early hours of Sunday morning yesterday. And Cameroonians residents in Kenzue locality in the east region of the country continue to live in fear and uncertainty after a police officer was kidnapped by the Seleka rebels in the Central African Republic. The rebel group is said to have been seeking the liberation of some of their members that were detained in Cameroon. Babla Jonathan tells us more in the following report.
Inhabitants of Kenzo, a locality 210 kilometers from Betua, East region of Cameroon, and 10 kilometers from the border with the Central African Republic, are said to be living in fear following an attack by Seleka rebels. The Central African rebels recently launched an attack on the gendarmerie and police station in Kenzo and reportedly set free their members held by Cameroonian security forces. The rebels reportedly kidnapped a Cameroonian police officer. A young Cameroonian from the Central African Republic who is said to have seen the kidnapped police officer says he is alive and in good health. The attack that came on the heels of the overthrow and escape of Francois Bouzizi lasted for over 2 hours.
Les populations de Kenzo ont connu une nuit très dure, 16 du 23 au 24 mars. Et donc le climat qui règne en ce moment, c'est beaucoup de doutes et d'inquiétude. Donc la sérénité n'est pas totalement revenue. C'est qu'il y a des gens qui ont encore peur, qui n'arrivent pas à dormir chez eux parce que les éléments rebelles les retiennent encore.
The rebels are said to have fired several bullets on the gendarmerie office in Kenzu and even attempted in vain to put it on fire. The gendarme officer who was on guard reportedly escaped for his dear life.
Jonathan Babilade reporting on the situation of inhabitants of Kenzo, a locality in the east region of the country. And just to add that Francois Bozize is still in Cameroon days after his government was toppled by the said Seleka rebels. Now still in Kenzo, commercial activities are yet to regain their usual effervescence following the attack of the Seleka rebels from the Central African Republic. The attack reportedly led to the closure of the borders between Cameroon and the Central African Republic. Jonathan Babla once again tells us more in the following report.
The closure of borders between Cameroon and the Central African Republic following the overthrow of Francois Bozize by Seleka rebels has made life much more difficult for nationals of both countries, especially those living in border towns. According to reports from Kenzo, commercial activities in that locality of the East region have slowed down. This has led to an increase in the cost of living. Heavy-duty truck transporters are equally greatly affected, given that the circulation of vehicles between both countries has been interrupted. This is the river that separates Bombe in Kenzo on the Cameroonian side and Gambula, Central African Republic. Both localities are linked by this bridge. This wooden barrier has been constructed to prohibit circulation of vehicles and persons from Cameroon to the Central African Republic and vice versa. On the Cameroonian side, security has been reinforced by officers from the Rapid Intervention Battalion, the National Gendarmerie, and the police.
Now, lessons in some government primary and secondary schools in Bongo, Bamasu, a locality in the Bakassi Peninsula in the southwest region of the country, are reportedly being paralyzed due to lack of teachers. And elites of the locality are complaining that teachers have gone on transfer and also on retirement and have not been replaced by the government. Details by Alimbe-based correspondent Davison Maimo.
Of the inland locality within the Bamuso subdivision in the Bakassi Peninsula Indian Division. According to the Lord Mayor, Sangi Emmanuel Jabba, the area that used to be populated is undergoing rural exodus, leaving the beautiful constructed government high school almost empty. Thus, the need for a better nursery and primary school.
Decided to go first with education, which we think is the major need for the people of the Bakassi area.
The newly constructed nursery school, which is an edifice in the area, plus a 6-room modern toilet at Government High School Mbongo, is being constructed with support from PNDP. Overwhelmed with joy to see the project realized, the people of Mbongo crowned the mayor and the Southwest coordinator of PNDP.
On behalf of powers conferred to me by the Nganda Dance Group from Bongo Balondo, the Lord Mayor for Bamuso Council, Mr. Sangi Emmanuel Jabba, has been honored with the title of Mufungi Nganda, while the regional coordinator for PNDP has been honored with the title of
The principal of Government High School Mbongo said the school is having series of problems.
Over the years, people have been looking for transfer, teachers have been looking for transfers and going. Of course, you cannot stop somebody from looking for his transfer. And when he's transferred and is not replaced, whom do you expect to fill that vacuum? It's not the principal. So it remains a problem of government to ensure that the schools that are being created, no matter the population, teachers should be sent. After all, the principals did not order that government should create schools left and right.
Let's talk about politics, precisely the upcoming senatorial elections in the country, where the Social Democratic Front senatorial candidates in the central region of the country were today presented during a press briefing to kickstart their own campaign at the CPDM headquarters. An information meeting ahead of the April 14th race is going to hold tomorrow. And from Yaoundé central region of the country, here's Roland Akon with our senatorial campaign updates.
The SDF candidates for the senatorial in the Central region are self-assured to win the April 14 election. The candidates are now canvassing for votes of municipal councillors in all the 10 divisions of the region. At the CPDM, an information meeting concerning the senatorial has been announced at the party's headquarters Tuesday. Only the SDF and the CPDM are competing for the senatorial in the Central region. At the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, none of the 4 political parties has submitted bank credentials for the government support fund for the senatorial. Senatorial campaign fever could be gripping municipal councillors who constitute the electoral college for the election of senators, but it is yet to catch ordinary Yaoundé dwellers.
Night board meeting of the National Cotton Company, Sodecoton, reportedly held today in Gariwa following the result of the findings of the Supreme State Audit on Iya Mohammed and the Finance and Budgetary Commission charged the General Manager of Sodecoton of embezzling 9 million francs CFA, and he has been charged, or he has been asked to pay the fine of 2 billion francs CFA. And we come back to the Friday's decision by the Supreme State Audit once again with Roland Akon.
The Budgetary and Financial Disciplinary Council of the Supreme Audit Office has found Iya Mohammed guilty of mismanaging 9 billion as General Manager of Sodecoton, Cameroon's cotton production company.
Malgré les pertes du passé, malgré le fait que nous ne recevons pas de subventions, nous arrivons année sur année de réaliser des bénéfices.
Iya has been GM of Sodecoton for close to 30 years. The council has recommended that Iya should not be allowed to hold any public office for a period of 7 years. Commentators interpret the decision to mean that Iya, who doubles as Fecafoot's president, will not be allowed to run for election to the presidency of the Football Association. Iya has been president of Fecafoot since 1998. He challenged a recent decision by Sports Minister stopping electoral activities in Fecafoot. Iya now says his destiny lies in the hands of God.
His destiny, of course, lies in the hands of God. Now we take you to Bamenda, northwest region of Cameroon, where agricultural officials are seeking ways to boost the productivity of farmers in upcoming farming season. In that part of Cameroon, farmers within the Bamenda 2 municipality, to that effect, recently benefited from some farm inputs by council that were given to them by some council officials. Rani Bel Satowara tells us more in the following report.
These farmers, belonging to some 6 different agricultural posts within the Bamenda 2 municipality in the northwest region of Cameroon, converged on the council premises to partake in the sensitization and distribution of seedlings. The mayor of the Bamenda 2 council, Balik Awa Fidelis, said they discovered that farmers, especially the old, loved farming but were faced with limited resources and farming techniques.
Our target is to help those farmers that cannot buy seeds to have more seed to plant, to increase food productivity in Bamenda 2 council area so that people can live and live better.
Not only were the farmers assisted with high-quality seedlings of foodstuffs like corn, beans and Irish potatoes, they equally benefited from farming techniques from agricultural technicians.
We are very happy with the gesture where Mayor Mecca. This is almost about the second or third time since Mayor took over, we organized a Megui agri-show competition. We have been participating and any planting season.
Next year we will bring them for agri-show. Now the thing that way with the benefit because we want for work power, then get the seed, chop fine to feed with family.
The beneficiaries expressed delight and promised to put in more manpower to realize greater output for the benefit of the entire region.
Rani Bero Satowara there reporting now. That does it for this segment of the news. But up next is Talking Point. Good evening to you viewers. Thanks indeed for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We are going to be talking about upcoming senatorial elections in the country, campaigns within the ranks of the various political parties taking part in the April 14th race started on Friday, and tonight we have a municipal councillor of the Social Democratic Front, all the way from Bamenda Northwest region of the country. Good evening, Mr. Etienne Tanifon.
Good, madam.
Thanks indeed for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Thank you.
Now, the campaign started on Saturday, like I earlier said, but it started timidly. Why?
Well, madam, today is Monday. We had the chairman had a press conference today in Yaoundé. So from today, all the sympathizers of SDF will, from the press conference, start working.
So everything would begin officially in the Social Democratic Front today?
It started on Saturday, but timidly. But today we were expecting from the press, the release from the press conference in Yaoundé from the chairman.
Now you are coming from Bamenda Northwest region of the country, looking at the number of municipal councillors that the Social Democratic Front is having, as well as those of the ruling CPDM. What are your chances? What are your chances?
Madam, what I can say is Cameroonians today, they are not voting for party lines. We are privileged to be the first councillors in Cameroon to put the Senate. I just pray that every Cameroonian who is going in for this senatorial elections, I beg your pardon, should vote with his conscience. Because we are privileged, the councillor, we are 10,622 councillors in Cameroon. From statistics, we learned that about 9,822 are still existing. So we are not, what I'm trying to say is, any councillor, either from which party, if you're going to vote, we know what is happening in Cameroon. We should vote for a change.
What is happening in Cameroon?
The democratic principles in Cameroon are not well laid. If you can take, for instance, what happened in Douala, where the council, the SDF list, it's catastrophic. But we just have to bear it for the sake of peace.
Are you doubting somewhat credibility in the first ever senatorial elections that will hold in Cameroon?
I want to tell the Cameroonian councillors, the Cameroonians in general, that we are going in for the first senatorial election in Cameroon. And we know what the CPDM government has done in this country. We come to elections, we have results before. People already start celebrating the results before elections are held. I'm praying that Cameroonians who are privileged, us the councillors, to go in for this first senatorial, they should not vote party line. They should vote their consciences.
This is somewhat a different kind of elections, not like the presidential elections or even the municipal elections. These senatorial elections, that everything seems defined. Why is it still having a problem when we know that it is obvious that the statistics is showing that the number of councillors that are going to vote the Senate, the CPDM is having the highest number of councillors? Why is it still having a problem at the level of maybe credibility and transparency?
You know, in Cameroon, the manner in which most of these councils were hijacked from the opposition, but because of peace, sake of peace, we decided to be there. If you can, from the chairman's declaration, the last NEC meeting that took place in Bamenda, if we went in for senatorial, it's just because we wanted that peace to reign in this country. So I'm calling on all councillors to vote with their consciences and not follow party lines. We know what we are going through in this country.
So now we take a look at the senatorial candidates or the senatorial elections, the way it's going to take place in the West region, precisely in Bafoussam. When you see that the CPDM is not going to take part, it has been ruled out in this West region of the country. Is it to your advantage? Do you think it's going to work to the advantage of the Social Democratic Front?
Madam, if you from 1992, when we won the presidential elections at the land majority, what happened was that they turned the results and we accepted So when you talk about Douala is the economic capital where the SDF run some councils here and councillors, and we are not going into, our councillors are not going in for these elections in Littoral region, where it's a stronghold and the economic capital where the SDFs were implanted.
But the CPDM 2 is not taking part in the West region.
It's a political, I can put it, they are playing, so it's a game.
Is it some sort of a guarantee to you and to the advantage of the Social Democratic Front?
It's just like making the SDF to be a regional kind of graphic stuff.
But you are taking part in 7 regions in the country.
Yes, madam, of course. We are taking part. But I have a message for the councillors of Cameroon.
You don't think you have any guarantee winning the elections in the West region of Cameroon?
Madam, since the events of democracy in Cameroon, the SDF has always emerged the winner. But the send off the relegate back us to second position. Since they started democracy in Cameroon, SDF has always been second. So it will not be a surprise if we are still relegated to second, but for the sake of peace, that's the reason why the chairman decided to go in for this election. But I am advising my fellow councillors. I call on all councillors to vote with their consciences and not follow party lines. We all know what...
Is that what is going to take place? Are you sure it's going to happen?
I don't see where...
To you as an
the council,
if you belong to a different party, or maybe in the center or the west region of the country, would you vote for another party?
The CPDM list in Adamawa and West region was cancelled for irregularities according to them. The documents that were supposed to be certified in the DO's office were certified by the police. And I learned that the one foreigner in the northern region, and who was a Chadian nationality, and people below 40. I don't see SDF that has been promoting democracy in Cameroon, preaching democracy, that to fill a form will make errors, because all what is happening in Douala, the world is looking at the CPDM government to take their responsibility.
Thanks indeed, Mr. Etienne Tanifon, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. Okay, and to you viewers, we thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Join Fenelong Mahobsen at exactly 8 p.m. for the French version of the news. And today we have the first sitcom, or that is going to be a serial that is going to begin at 7:30 p.m. exactly on Equinox Television. That is going to be La Première Dame. And stay tuned to our programs. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us once again.